I vote freedom! I'd like to ask you a simple question. Where do you keep, in the house, when you think about around the house, where do you keep your gender fluid? Me, I keep it under the kitchen sink. Now the whole thing about the imposition by our government of the dangerous ideology, of the trans ideology in school, is extremely dangerous nonsense. You know that transphobia, like you've heard of all these things about, you know that the left doesn't really have arguments, it only has name calling. Well, let's give it a bit of a go ourselves. We've heard things like arachnophobia, people who are afraid of spiders. We also have things like Islamophobia, people who are afraid of Muslims. But then it brings the whole thing about, well, what's a rational fear and what's an irrational fear? Is it looking at history and events at the minute, is that a rational problem? But when the left use the name calling of transphobia, well, I have a major problem with that. Well, because how can you be transphobic when trans does not exist? There is no such thing in this life, in this world. There's no human being which is transsexual. Now, I would oppose this dangerous nonsense from the very beginning, especially in the last 5 years, being very vocal about it, it wasn't very common, because I know someone who studied theology at school and at university, that it is impossible for a human being to change from being male to female and vice versa. So even the term transsexual is a complete and utter lie. Yes! When we look at the beginnings of this ideology, you may be aware that it was started by a guy in America called Dr. John Money, who called himself a sexologist. No teachers coming. That he did experiments on two brothers. Basically, one per kid was castrated just after birth. It was then raised, even though it was a male and a boy, it was raised by under this guy's supervision as a girl. Now those two brothers, he then took videos of them molesting each other. He would encourage them. It was absolutely terrible what this guy did. He basically groomed them and took pornographic videos of these children. Both of them, actually, it's in recent history, both of them, would you believe, were interviewed on the Oprah Winfrey Show, I think it was in the 90s or 2000s, and both of these young men committed suicide. So we can see that the damage, and what does the damage do? Gender ideology indoctrinates young children with falsehoods. We know that it leads to the mutilation of young and innocent children. We know that this is for the benefit of Big Pharma, they found out in America that each child who's mutilated because of this gender ideology is worth $1.2 million to the pharma industry. So it's when you often follow the money and follow the perversion of the people who started this agenda, you will see what it's really about. As Natasha, an excellent speech, Natasha, you put me to shame. Excellent speech, and give her a bull of applause for Natasha Kavanagh. Another very important aspect is that this anti-free speech legislation brought in by Dumbo, you know who I'm talking about, don't you? Helen McEntee. You know, you have Dumb and Dumber, Drew Horace and Helen McEntee. Boys, you know which way to vote next week, don't you? Drew Horace, the most dangerous Garda commissioner in the history of Ireland, who has attempted to politicise the Gardaí, which should always be politically neutral. I am sure that most guards are embarrassed by what they're asked to do by this Drew Horace OBE, but I hope and I suspect very much that the GRA will all be voting to get rid of this Dumbo. But Dumb and Dumber and Dumbo, Helen McEntee, her really basic justification for the introduction of anti-free speech legislation is to silence people. They want to keep us quiet, and in the meantime they use public money and public facilities of libraries and schools to indoctrinate our children with their dangerous ideology, which is a paedophile's charter. That's what they're trying to introduce into our schools, and we will oppose as parents. The children do not belong to the state, they are our children, and it is our duty to protect them and decide what our children are taught. We are the primary educators. Our country does not belong to the government, it belongs to the people of Ireland. But our children do not belong to the state. They are our children and our duty to protect from the imposition of their perverted ideology in schools and libraries. And we must do everything possible to stop it. And because these people do have power, and because there's so many crowds in the country who will just go along to make it easy, they will just go along with the flow. They will not examine what is being introduced in our schools day by day. That we must, as a point of the spear, be very clear and be very vocal about we as parents are opposed to this imposition in our schools. We do not want, like the idea, you do know that TENI, we as also, not only Irish citizens, but taxpayers, TENI have received 1.2 million euro off the taxpayer in 5 years. TENI, who have not been able to publish their own accounts, have been given 1.2 million euro by the taxpayer. It was withdrawn in October 2022, and then within no time at all, under the influence of Roderick O'Gorman, bingo, to get their money again. But basically, we are sick of the taxpayer slush fund going to NGOs. You get over 6 billion euro a year from the taxpayer. It's an ideological echo chamber to impose this ideology all the time through various media and through our schools and libraries, so we must stop that. The Irish Freedom Party, from the very beginning, have been very vocal in opposition to the imposition of this gender ideology. We will make it clear. Now, on the immigration issue, you say that 5 years ago people were very afraid. Many people were afraid to speak up. Well, that has changed dramatically in the last number of years. You saw the huge number of rallies throughout the country there before and after Christmas. And now we understand that, according to polls, 75% of the people of Ireland are opposed to mass immigration into our country. And they know that we've taken on enough uncontrolled number of unvetted males into our country. But there's more good news. There's more good news. Ireland is changing, and not some of it for the better. There was polls there with the whole Tavistock, the travesty of the Irish state sending Irish children over to Britain to be mutilated is just unbelievable and unacceptable. But when this issue came up in the papers there a few months ago, we found that when people are polled about it, that the majority of people are opposed to the imposition of this dangerous ideology in our schools and libraries and in our country. Oh, I thought I was doing a bit of a clap there. Sit yourself. Yeah, that they have. So, in polls in Britain and in Ireland, we can see that there's a growing and majority opposition to this by the people, to this dangerous ideology. And not only, it doesn't have to just do with children, it also has to do with women, that women are denied safe spaces, that a woman cannot go into the toilet, a woman cannot go without some man, we're talking a frock, a guy with a dress coming in, demanding, I don't know what he wants to demand, and then taking their spaces in sports as well. So it just isn't just to do with children, it's also a reconfiguration, getting rid, and this attempt to get rid of the distinction between male and female, men and women, and make it all, whatever you're having yourself, is dangerous, not only to children, but especially to women whose private spaces and also places in sport will be undermined greatly. So in the polls in Britain and Ireland, the vast majority of people, over time, there's a swing in public opinion that an increasing number of people oppose the imposition of this dangerous ideology. So you can get it from us that the Irish Freedom Party will continue to campaign against this. We encourage parents, as Natasha said, to print out and inform schools that we do not want this ideology imposed in our schools. Gura Magas Islam is Spanish. The next speaker is Patrice Johnson, who will be a candidate in Drogheda Rural.